Hey everybody, so I've been moving code over and it's gone pretty well. I didn't really think about it, but this add mesh gets called from the component. So when you add a mesh, like it gets called directly from the component. So, and I don't want, I think I want all calls to go through this ThreeJS service and no calls to go directly to like sort of these helper services. So this mesh service. So I think the way to go with this would be to basically copy this entire function. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to take it over to mesh service and I'm going to paste it in there. Yeah, we want to make it like a sibling of the constructor. And then, so yeah, it's not going to be happy with okay, so yeah, it's definitely going to want imports, and it's kind of frustrating because it's not a blue. Should be able to figure this one out. Um, so let's go ahead and go back to our, let's say alt back, and find that where that box geometry gets. Do I have problems? Oh, I'm back in the mesh service. I wanted to go over here. Go to that box geometry and find it in here. Yeah, it's this guy right here. And it's like everything over here is, oh no, that's all kinds of, okay, so all this stuff is coming from 3. So I'm just going to take all of this right here. I noticed that there's something that's not being used. This object 3D event map. I don't think I ever used that. Let's go ahead and this is a great time to sort of take care of these little issues. So what I'm doing is I'm going to copy all of the information over, or this whole method over, and then just call it and just return what it comes from it. I think that's probably the easiest way to accomplish moving the actual stuff. Now this has tons of stuff. Okay, I think we're going to need mesh eventually, but like, yeah, none of this stuff is needed over here. I need to be out of this view. This view is very difficult to see in. So it looks like we don't want any of that. And we definitely don't need the renderer. I think this is a good sign, trying to basically, having, I don't know, not quite as much in here. So we have a lot of issues here. Okay, so text geometry. Oh, so now it knows um, where to get stuff from. 3, I probably need to just go grab that like that. I don't know if it would pick up that that's how I want to get it. That's a little unique. Uh, and then, so now let's go down and see what we got next. Get text geometry. Okay, so that is a function we definitely want to pull over. So I'm actually going to steal that one straight up. I don't think get text geometry. Let's take a close look at that. Go to definition. Yeah, see, this one doesn't, yeah, this one I'm sure doesn't get called from outside of this service. So it definitely is a good candidate to just get a full lift and shift. And when we're all said and done, we won't need that over here anymore, I don't think. So this is when it's nice to have Git because, and Control Z because, like sometimes this just gets out of hand and you end up like, you end up, so yeah, so text geometry was looking in this service and now it's in the service, so now it's just this. So that was the rework I mentioned in the last video, that that the way I'm doing it does result in a little bit of rework. But So that's good, and that's a good sign. Um, this is disturbing. This said, and okay, so this needs to stay in, and this scenes add, yeah, that definitely needs to stay over there. Yeah, so I was, see, if I had been like someone's boss, I would have been like, just go ahead and move it, and then they'd have tried to move it, and then they would have been like, screwed. I hate to put too fine of a point on it, but yeah. So then this needs to stay, and then these two, these that needs to stay over in the ThreeJS mesh. So this has ended up being much more difficult than I had thought. That needs to move up. So basically, when we go back, we're going to call this, and we're going to get this mesh back, but then we're going to do all that stuff over there, because that is ThreeJS service sort of work, and then this is mesh service kind of work. Um, so, and it's kind of funny because people kind of lose track of, oh man. So this update mesh item. And I don't know if these orders matter. I don't think they do. I can't see any problem coming from this happening. See, no, it should be fine because, okay, so technically what would happen is this mesh item is being updated and then it's being pushed, but it doesn't really matter if it gets updated afterwards because it's still going to update the same item and it's going to still happen in the same cycle. So that's fine, and that needs to stay over there for the moment. This is something that will end up coming back over. No, it'll probably stay over there. And then this is this. So yeah, I'm way out on a limb now. Like things could go horribly wrong. Okay, so that's that. This is the stuff we want to stay over here. We want to call this. We want to get our promise back, our mesh item promise, and it's async, so this should all work. All right, so we're going to leave that there, and we're hit Control S, and then this guy, the thing we just copied, add mesh, is okay. So what we want to do is we want to call. Okay, so we want to, I know we want to get rid of all of this, I'm pretty sure. And then we want to get rid of this one. This one. But this one needed to stay, and then these two needed to go. And then, okay, so it doesn't have a mesh. Okay, so that's what we want to get from the add mesh call, I think. Okay, that's that. Okay, all of those need to. So then we want to say, okay, when do we create the mesh? There's going to be a let or const mesh. Okay, so we want to do something along these lines. Right at the beginning up here, equals this dot mesh service dot add mesh, and we're going to send it the mesh item. And now this is a promise. So I don't know if we add an await to the front of this. And that's because so that, okay. mesh, and this re returns a promise. Now, does this need to be? I wonder if that needs to be in the mesh service. I think it does need to be async because, does it? Yeah, because it's going to get, it could be getting some, yeah, this guy. Because of this, it needs to be in await. And then it's going to return, oh, the mesh item. Because, oh, so it creates the mesh in somewhere in here. The actual mesh. This guy. So I want it to return that mesh, not, and that mesh is a supported mesh. So I'm going to see. I don't know. Things get weird with these promises. So I'm going to change that to this. Control V. And then I'm going to have this return the mesh. All right, so let's think through this. This is a little funny because I send this mesh item, I do some alterations of the mesh item, and then I return the mesh because I need the mesh over there. Now, okay, this is where JavaScript gets weird because this mesh item is the same mesh item as the one I pass in. So when I alter it, I still have that same value. So then I believe in the service, yeah, so this is not crying anymore. So what happens is in the service, it returns the altered mesh. And this, the altered mesh item and the altered mesh item, even though it didn't get altered in this function. And that's a lot to think about, but that is how it works. And then the mesh actually gets updated because that's what we really need. But I think the component needs that. So that is weird, but we still have a problem. So in the ThreeJS service on line 417, it's upset. Let me hit save and let's look. Well, this says it's on 518. Oh, okay, this. So we do call it, okay, so this mesh service. And 473. So get geometry definitely needs to be in the service. Okay, so that's working, but it doesn't look, it kind of looks bad. Kind of looks like something bad happened. Trying to, oh, maybe not. Just took it a while. All right, so add mesh, show edit forms, doom, text. Let's see, we're going to the favorite. I hate to play favorites, but I'm playing favorites. Hello world, and then -4. And then that's awesome. That is awesome. It does not always work out that way. Like when you, there was like a ton of balls up in there at one time. So that was just like a stream of consciousness trying to just get it done. Knowing that you have everything in Git so that when, if you mess it up, that you'll be able to just bail on what you've done. Yeah, it usually does not work out like that on the first try, but it seems to work out. And when it breaks, it breaks. So that's one of the good things, is at least like if it works, then it probably worked. If it breaks in this sort of scenario where you do like a big lift and shift from that. It is a bit confusing though, because in this add mesh, the mesh item is being altered. I don't exactly know how or why. Mesh item shape. Maybe the mesh item isn't being altered. Meshes push, mesh items push. Actually, the mesh item is not being altered. Okay, so that's good. So there's nothing to worry about there. Let's go ahead and remove these. I honestly thought there was a good chance that I was gonna have to bail on this video. Like I was gonna have to be like, well, guys, we gave it a shot. Good try. Let's all regather and retry this tomorrow. But it all worked out. It'll be interesting to see if update works out because, but like a lot of things are being sorted out here. That was like just just a beautiful example of debt of tech debt. Like that update or that add mesh was getting more and more complex. The farther and farther we went down the road, the more and more complex it was getting. And these things will get to the point where there's absolutely no way to fix them. Even like you could bring the most brilliant person in the world and you've got so many things all dependent on each other that you can't actually pull these pieces apart. So then you end up with like a service, a block of code that is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and virtually impossible to stop the bleeding. And that is like kind of what is a fatal shot to a lot of software. So tomorrow is going to be a bigger challenge because tomorrow is update, and update is freaking huge. But I think that we're good. I think that we should be able to do it. We went from like 70 lines of code in here, probably, or maybe 50 lines of code to like, 410 to 420 to 10. So that was good. And I think all this stuff makes sense. It is kind of weird. Okay, so it'll be calling this 3-service update mesh after tomorrow. Mesh is supported. It'd say, hey, get me a mesh for this. That makes sense. And then update the mesh. That is weird that we were updating the mesh after the mesh item. We're updating it, so there's something happening in there, and that'll be interesting to see what that does. It's kind of weird. You wouldn't think that this would be necessary, just like from a purely logical perspective, but it probably is. We can comment it out right now and check it out. Animation service, obviously, I don't want my mesh service interacting with the animation service, or doing anything with the state. So I think everything else makes sense. I think it makes sense to return the mesh item, even though we don't really do anything with the mesh item. I don't know why I need it returned over there. I think that if I remember correctly, way back when I returned that just so that the code would be a little bit easier to understand. But just for fun, let's go ahead and let me go. That's going to be my screen capture. Let's see, Control S. See what happens. Add mesh, show edit form. Yeah, it doesn't look like we need to do that update mesh. I think this is a very good time to sort of take that risk and just remove. I don't think this code. I'm just going to say don't think. And I guess I might as well move it to -3. I was thinking it would probably break, but testing it took up all the time. So yeah, that updating that mesh there doesn't seem to be necessary. When you add it, logically it didn't seem like it'd be necessary, but a lot of times, maybe update's doing something. But it looks like maybe that's like something that just kind of got left behind. Maybe originally yeah, I just can't imagine why update is needed. But tomorrow we'll go over update and maybe we'll see something in there. Does not appear to be needed. Um, so um, so yeah. So I'm gonna leave that commented out. It'll be that is another good example of tech debt. Like it'll probably be safer to leave it that code in there, to leave that line of code in there. But like it's hard right now. Like it's kind of a oh god moment to do it now. Just imagine when you're working on something else or whatever. If you're not deep in meshes, how much harder it would be. But anyways, happy coding everybody. Bye.